Hello. My name is Jeremiah Fale. For those who don't know me, I am a music major at SAE. For my MP 605 assessment, we were asked to go and do some research on a culture. We were then asked to look into the musical works within the culture and the different practices associated with them. So today I will be talking to you about the Spanish culture and dive more into specifically into the Spanish flamenco scene and that culture. So, for those who don't know, flamenco is a subgenre of Spanish folk music. Yeah, so before we go in, I'll just give a little insight into what Spanish flamenco is. Let's go.
In 711 AD, the great Muslim dynasty and an Amazigh army headed by Tariq ibn Ziyad had been called in after the death of King Witsia. This was to aid in taking back the throne from the usurper Roderick, who was the king of the Visigoths. The Amazigh army managed to invade and conquer most of Spain by the year 714 AD, leaving it under a new Muslim dynasty. Over the years, the new influence of the Middle East would continue to change the culture and music within the Spanish community. Fast forward a few hundred years to the 9th century, a man named Zuryab moves from Baghdad in India all the way over to Cordoba in the south of Spain. It is believed that Zuryab is the originator of singing flamenco by combining various musical influences from India and the Muslim and Jewish musical influences within the area. Flamenco has continued to take on different inspirations from different subgenres of Spanish folk music, eventually evolving into the typical flamenco that we hear today. This is Ishmael Davids, who is a Spanish flamenco singer and guitarist, and today he'll be answering a few questions about the different Spanish folk music, the different instruments and techniques, the Spanish language, and also the importance of musical and lyrical storytelling in flamenco music. Flamenco music is part of a larger variety of different types of folk music, like fandango, which opts for a brighter sound, and jota, which sounds more classical and finds its origins in Aragon, Spain. Like most forms of Spanish folk, these genres are typically played in a 3/4 or 6/8 rhythm. Flamenco, while incorporating many of the same features, also contains different characteristics unique to itself as well. Let's have a look at these characteristics and techniques. Instruments typically used in flamenco music include the castanets, which are composed of either plastic or wooden shells that are tied together, one being of a higher pitch, which goes into the right hand of the user, and the other being of a lower pitch, going into the left hand. They are played either by the closing of the hands or the shaking of the hands. The tambourine is also another common instrument used in flamenco, and it's a circular instrument that is comprised of animal skin and metal jingles, which are played by striking the animal skin, which causes it to sound a jingle. Alternatively, you can either play it by striking it with your hand against your body or by simply shaking it. Using your legs to stomp and your hands to clap is also common in flamenco, but perhaps the most common instrument used in flamenco and Spanish folk music in general is the classical flamenco guitar. Moved on to the guitar now. Can you explain what alzapua, picado, and golpe is?
The alzu, as you can see your thumb, the way you keep your thumb, the alzapua, as you can see, as flamenco guitarists, we try and use 5 fingers. And we use 5 fingers because there's different sound we want to get out of the guitar. A classical guitarist or other guitarists will probably move their thumb up and down. Yeah. Whereas flamenco, we move the hand like that. So that's the movement. That's basically al-zapua. Zapua is by getting. It's just that to get that sort of duende in the hand. Your picado is just basically the walking run of your fingers.
Yeah.
So the picado is basically keeping your thumb there and doing that. So you're getting that. So you're doing the walking on the strings. That's basically what your picado is. And then the golpe is what we've got on our guitar. On our guitars, you can see we've got your plate.
Yeah.
And the plate is basically for the golpe because we hit to get the timing. So because it's rhythmic and we keep time, so it's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In mostly in Spanish and flamenco, especially in flamenco, it's all about the right hand.
Mm.
It's not so much about the left hand like a lot of other music. Jazz, it's a lot about what your left hand and the chords you are doing. In flamenco, it's not so much the chord, it is what your rhythm is doing in your right hand.
As you can see, there are a lot of intricate techniques in which flamenco uses to tell different stories. But what about literal storytelling in the language? Flamenco music and storytelling go hand in hand when it comes to telling the story. When it comes to musical storytelling, look no further than the great Paco de Lucia's Entre dos Aguas, in which Paco de Lucia, during the song, is switching between two dominants. While at face value it doesn't mean much, when you translate the title of the song, the musical choices make much more sense. You see, the song title Entre dos Aguas literally translates to between two waters, and Paco de Lucia makes sure to communicate that by letting the music speak for itself. It also works in conjunction with lyrics to also tell that story. Flamenco lyrics are written with passion and heart, duende, to tell stories of betrayal, life, death, and love. These lyrics can typically be divided into three types: cante jondo, cante intermedio, and cante chico. Cante jondo covers death and despair. Cante intermedio also incorporates those themes but also uses characteristics of fandango music. And cante chico is more stripped back and covers the love and humor side. So, as a Spanish influenced artist and as a musician, what makes the use of language so important?
I find it the language I sing or I'm more comfortable in singing is probably Spanish and Arabic.
Yeah.
The harmonic, the diction, the pronunciation just works so much better for me. And because of the history of where flamenco comes 200 years back, the Moorish, the North Africa, all of that Arabic influence of flamenco and the gypsies, um, the being able to sing in those languages, I feel more the duende and the passion coming out.
Yeah.
So instead of using words in especially the gypsies, they use words with no meaning. For example, la 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 la. So again, I'm using language. It's more musically rhythmic, and if I go on stage, it depends how I feel. But you get the idea. So
Yeah.
so sometimes words can't probably express that, but you could feel it if you're in an audience or mean. So to answer, the language is not necessarily the word, but the music that will sit to that language is the part that attracts me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why the Spanish? Because I could say now in Arabic, if you're going to go to Cairo or you're going to go to Lebanon or any of the other countries, they will say yeah, and using the same chords. I haven't changed. The tune is the same, but the languages could fit. You could play for an Arab audience or a Spanish audience, and you'll probably get the same results. Yeah.
And with the musical and lyrical storytelling, what makes it such a huge part in Spanish folk music, flamenco, just all types of Spanish music? What makes musical and lyrical storytelling so important?
It depends on your audience, of course. If your audience is an audience of duende, and I use the word duende specifically because it actually expresses what I'm trying to explain. It comes from my heart, it comes from the passion, it comes from my soul. It is actually the combination of all of those that I put into a bar or 2 bars or 5 bars. So I put my soul in it. And how do I express that feeling? I can use my feet, I use my guitar, I use my voice to give you that. Gypsy Kings as probably the best example.
Yeah.
Gypsy Kings had so many hits, and they sang in a language that even Spaniards couldn't understand, but they were the biggest hits.
Yeah.
So the people weren't listening to the actual lyrics, but the musical duende that they had. So the Spaniards couldn't even understand some of the words they used. Bambaleo. It's not Spanish. They were French gypsies. They were speaking French. Sort of to answer your question, music, it's not sometimes the lyrics. Yes, there are people, your audience sometimes want to hear the words because they want to hear a love song and they are pulled into that love. That lyrics on its own is just, could be a, poetry or,
Yeah.
But the thing that makes music, the duende of it, is Gypsy Kings. They wrote so many hit songs. There was no borders. You could be French, you could be German, you could be African. If you said, so if you start playing that, you're going to get people just that want to dance. It's the combination of what you put together, and which I'm trying to say is that duende of spirit, heart, rhythm. That's the secret, I think, to answer your question in terms of the lyric. It's more that duende that has to come out as a musician that you need to get out as a song producer or as a songwriter. Yeah.
Any last parting words before we end the interview?
Yeah, I would, music with soul is the best medicine. I think music without soul, is, we all, as musicians, I would always think that playing music for yourself at home is good. Playing music for an audience is entertaining. And if you could do that, you could make people happy,
Yeah.
When looking into the culture of Spanish flamenco and the different practices associated with it, I could really gravitate towards the whole musical and also the lyrical storytelling part of it. Although I can't understand it, this connection that I feel when I listen to it as well. I think the reason why I love flamenco now and why I love it so much is that although I don't understand the words, I feel the duende. New word that I learned, duende. It's just passion, and I guess reflecting on that, and also my identity as a Samoan who doesn't really understand their language. I can really gravitate towards letting the music speak for itself and letting the music tell the stories rather than actual words, which is something that I will incorporate into my music to come. And yeah, Spanish flamenco culture is full of stories just waiting to be heard, and is something that I will truly remember for the rest of my life. But yeah, without further ado, this is my documentary. Thanks for watching.